Mr Deputy Speaker, and can I start by congratulating the member for Sutton Coldfield for everything that he has done to get this debate, and indeed the team behind him who have done an extraordinary job in helping run this campaign. It is, of course, no easy thing to go against the grain of your party, although given the amount of times I've rebelled, I'm not sure the whips are going to believe that in me. But I don't do it lightly. I do it with the consideration of why I was sent here, what I believe in, and what are the views that the people who support this party would expect us to do. Over the course of my time in Parliament, we have had numerous debates about global Britain. And for me, it's quite simple. The definition of global Britain, what it embodies, is defence, diplomacy, trade, and, of course, development. Each one of those pillars relies heavily upon the other. Our trade ambitions, our defence operations, our diplomatic networks and our development programmes all peak and trough depending on one another's successes. Whatever the variation, that quartet of sectors helps to promote Britain on the world stage. They represent a Britain that does not step back but steps forward, as was pointed out by the Right Honourable Member for Howden, I beg your pardon. In trade, we are striking many new positive free trade agreements. We are being ambitious and global and outward-looking. In defence, we are sending our aircraft carriers around the world. Our diplomatic network is still viewed as one of the finest networks in the world. And up until last year, Mr Deputy Speaker, I would have maintained that our commitment to 0.7% was not just the correct thing to do, but an act of global leadership that benefits our trade, defence and diplomatic missions, all of which is truly reflective of global Britain. In committing to the 0.7% target, we offered not just warm words, but firm action for those most in need. Now, I have listened carefully to the words of colleagues during this debate and over the course of the last year. I have heard all too often that we simply can't afford to pay the 0.7 development budget given the pandemic and the economic climate. Now, leaving aside the fact that the 0.7% target fluctuates depending on the strength of our economy, ensuring that in good times there is more money and that in bad times there is less, I humbly remind everyone in this House that we brought it in the wake of the financial crisis, wherein our economic growth was possibly at its lowest, with no forecast to bolster it, no forecast to boost it. I will.
I'm most grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. He's making an extremely good and sensible speech. But can I also thank him for the immense amount of hard work and leadership he has taken in advancing this argument and getting it to this point today.
Incredibly generous of the Right Honourable Member, and I appreciate it. But we stood up in the early, just post the 2010 election because it was the right thing to do, and because it demonstrated our global leadership, and it encouraged others to follow suit. And it is simply not the case to say that other countries haven't followed suit, with France and Germany now hitting the 0.7% target, with America and Canada doing so also. It is a reflection that our leadership has led and encouraged them to do so. And with a new President of the United States who is reaffirming the rules-based order, we can truly say that we have a global group that will support 0.7%, but not if we do not stick to our guns on this. We have been able to assist in humanitarian crises and conflict zones around the world. We have been able to address the health issues, sanitation issues, education issues, but all of that is put into jeopardy. As has already been mentioned, what we are doing in this cut from 0.7% to 0.5% is cutting global health budgets down by 14%, girls' education down by 25%, clean water down by 80%, the UN and HIV AIDS programme down by 80%. All of these cut during a pandemic where the problems are exacerbated as opposed to diminished. No impact assessment has been undertaken, no review of what these cuts would mean to the different organisations. A simple strike of the pen, no vote in Parliament, and absolutely no consideration for the consequences. It is a staggering miscalculation to ignore our international obligations and moral duties, because we cannot protect ourselves at home if we do so. Many have argued that that money should be spent abroad. But if we wish to tackle terrorism, asylum and climate change, then we have to be out there. We have to be cooperating on an international scale to ensure that each of these points are addressed and that we live in a truly globalised world. Mr Deputy Speaker, we have been told that tough fiscal decisions will have to be made, and I accept that, and I recognise the extensive cost of the government's very generous support packages. But as of today, the only area in which the government has cut funding has been the 0.7%, minus, of course, the public sector pay freeze. Perhaps the Minister, when he returns, might answer why that is. In a party that has committed 0.7% in 2019, 2017, 2015, 2010, we all won those elections on the basis of promising it to our electorate. It would be a shame if we could not stand up for the promise to the world's poorest people, to our electorate, and to deliver on all the programmes who are depending on UK